Hi guys. So today's video is primarily about patience. I have a window open because it's hella hot in here, and I have some dogs in here, so if they snore and make noise, I'm sorry, but they're too cute to kick out. Anyway, so I've been thinking about once upon a time in my life when I lived in Cambridge in England. Cambridge is a little university town. It's beautiful. I used to live in a little studio apartment and walk to work through the beautiful little city center and past a park to this little telemarketing, telesales job I had at the time. Every morning, or not every morning, but a lot of the time, I would look over in the beautiful green park that I passed, and I would see a man in a wheelchair, just enjoying time under the trees, in the light, just being outside. And there was a woman with him, his companion or nurse, or maybe she was his wife, I don't know, but they would be there pretty often. And I never went over to say hi, even though I have always believed that that man was Stephen Hawking. Now, Stephen Hawking is one of the most brilliant minds of our time. He's a famous cosmologist and theoretical physicist. And at the time, I was walking to work. I didn't want to be late. Also, they were a little distance from me, and I could tell that they were alone, and I didn't want to be intrusive and go, invade their personal time or whatever. Anyway, many years later, I've come to the realization that I didn't not go over there because I was trying to be polite. I didn't go over there because I was intimidated. At that point, I had never read any of his books, and I just knew how brilliant he was, and what was I going to say? And I've regretted that. But I wanted to tell you something about Stephen Hawking. And if you didn't know this, he was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis when he was 21 years old. Doctors gave him 2 years to live. Now, ALS is a condition or a group of conditions where the neurons in your brain stop being able to tell your muscles how to move and how to function. And as that happens, the muscles atrophy and stop being able to work, and this leads to paralysis and ultimately death. He was diagnosed with the early onset ALS at 21, and they didn't expect him to live much more than 2 years. Turns out he lived more than 50 past his diagnosis. And he produced many important works over that time. So obviously he was a critical thinker, and he would come up with theories about the universe that no one had ever thought before, or he was thinking about it in a new way. And toward the end of his life, he could no longer use his hands to write or type, and he could no longer use his mouth to speak. But because people wanted to know what he had to say, scientists figured out a way to use, I think, his glasses, and he was able to, with like a twitch of his cheek, he was able to stop a cursor on a screen and spell out what he was trying to say one letter at a time. So this brilliant mind, with all these nuanced, complicated theories or thoughts about the universe and space and our world, had to communicate one letter at a time, because he had so much insight to share still. And I can't even imagine what that kind of prison of patience must have been like, to have so much to say and not be able to say it in the way you want to. I think the computer was able to fill in some predictive text, but if you're texting and you get predictive text and you're like, wait, that's not what I want to say, and you have to go delete, 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 delete. And that's frustrating for us, and we're doing it in seconds. And he had to be so tolerant because he had no other choice. And, for a lot of people right now, you might be in a situation where you're being forced to practice and to cultivate patience that wasn't necessary before, because you could just do it. You could just keep going and going and going, and things are different at the moment. But that gives me strength because it reminds me of the capacity we have for patience. Stephen also has a quote, which I don't know verbatim, but it basically, essentially, he says something like, no matter how hard things are, never give up. Never give up because something is hard. All right, well, you hear my dog. Practice patience. I'm thinking of you guys. Take care, stay safe, and we'll talk soon.